I'm going to say this, and if anybody doubts it after the evidence we presented in this video, we're not recording history. We're rewriting history from the biblical truth perspective, from the obvious perspective. We're showing the greatest cover-up and cover-over of history, and the reason why all this stuff is important. You know, I read some of the cynics and some of the, hyenas and jackals writings, and it's interesting because someone will say, well, I think I know this, look, that can't be, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that we've done our homework. We've got, for instance, Native American elders, and I'll wet your whistle with this, that are absolutely capable of utilizing their knowledge to open stargates. Now, if people don't get the stargate, another word for star is angel. An angel and star, obviously, in the New Testament, messenger, and in the Old Testament, the seven stars that Jesus spoke of, in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation, are the seven angels. But the traditions of the ancients were that stars were the abode of the angels. Now, there's a lot of quirky stuff going on. I saw one presentation that said that, the fallen angels are bound in the Antarctic. Well, not all of the fallen angels are bound. I think it's interesting because in the book of Hebrews we're told that we come before an innumerable, if you will, a cloud of angels and also witnesses, and that if Jesus could have called 10,000 angels, I'm sure it was more than 200 that fell, was Satan, Lucifer, who became Satan, meaning adversary. The people that don't want to believe this stuff are the ones that basically say to me or say to Tim, well, it's not relevant. It couldn't be more relevant. The tree is known by the fruit it bears, and the cannibalism right now that's feeding the headlines and feeding on humans, whether it's sacrificial abortion, whether it's a sacrificial pedophiles doing such horrible things that it makes you want to vomit to little children, and all of the abuse that's going on. One of the world's religions, the biggest world's, one of the top three, Islam, saying certain sects saying it's okay to eat your enemies as long as they're not Muslims. That's been carried out in Syria. So what's interesting, you cannot separate, and I'm telling people this because it's critical. One time I asked the Lord, I've gone on record as saying this, and look, I was called to do this. If you can't handle it, go before the Lord in prayer and tell him he made a mistake in calling me to bring these truths to the public. But the point is that you cannot separate the root of evil from the fruit of evil, and we're experiencing the fruit of evil on an unimaginable level, so much so that the Bible specifically says in the New Testament, if the days weren't shortened for the elect's sake, there would be no flesh left alive. Then look, here's how God's in it. The scripture says, despise not the day of small beginnings. We're in this thing because of the grace of primarily two people, that started us out. Cam and Jan, God bless you. Weren't it because Gary Haven saw what we were doing and helped us out on the second one? But these things cost $250,000, and that's hard dollars. And by the way, I don't take a cent out of that. Tim and Carlos, and we pay our cinematographers, our sound guys. We pay our pilots. We got to pay for all this stuff, and some of the places are so obscure that there's no way to cover 300 square miles in a day except by air. There's no way to see the geo-positioning of some of these different kivas in the desert southwest or in Sardinia. And, I told Tim, I said, Tim, you include the picture of the Vatican chopper when you guys were in Sardinia, which, by the way, he did. Thank you, Tim. Because it's when they were there, I think, 2 years ago initially, 2 years ago to film the majority of what you're going to see in episode 3, they had the creepy little guys in their kind of like, if you will, a Raiders of the Lost Ark sort of people following him. There's no way, ladies and gentlemen, that these things could come out outside of the grace of God. Now look, This is critical. James Cameron has launched the greatest search for Atlantis. I know the New Agers are claiming point blank that Antarctica is Atlantis. I can tell you this from the people I know in the intelligence community over the last 25 years, in the military, in the scientists who are coming to the point in their life where they want to clear the air. Antarctica is not Atlantis. But saying that, the mysteries of the Antarctic are so profoundly pertinent to our day that that's what all this stuff is. Now, I know that there are people that argue with me and there are no giants, blah, 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 but the man with the experience, the people with the evidence, this is why we produce these videos, DVDs, and I write the books I write, and produce them, is to basically allow people prayerfully, if you're people of God, to discern what's right and what's wrong, and also to fill in the blanks from history. One of the most pressing issues is, why did God tell the children of Israel when they went into the land of Canaan to kill every man, woman, and child? Now, I've heard, Doug, you've heard this too, and I think you said, well, I didn't know, meaning you, Doug, didn't know that until you heard it. But it's because they were not human beings. They were not the descendants of Adam and Eve. They were something else. They were a hybrid. They were a composite. When you see the Sardinian figures of the Nuragi, that's what they call them, they're Nuragi, and you see their eyes, you see the disproportionate, if you will, features on their faces, you know you're dealing with something else, just like L.A. Marzulli's, the skulls. These skulls aren't flat-boarded. Good and nice. Some of these skulls, and Tim, when we did the first True Legends, we quoted a lot of the Spanish conquistadors, some of the manuscripts. Listen, when some of those manuscripts are dumped into Tim's lap by those who are museum curators and stuff, some of these suckers haven't been open for 400 or 500 years. I'm saying suckers, meaning old manuscripts, okay? Slang. I apologize for that. But who can you say is behind that except, I would say this, the hand of the Lord. The hand of the Lord is upon this. And what it's doing, and Doug, right now as we're on the show with you tonight, on your show, I'm getting emails saying, thank you. Thank you for helping me to understand the passages of Scripture, or why God would do that. Well, see, everything that God does has a purpose, yet the purpose of God is always trying to be manipulated, frustrated, intervened against, warred against, or every other word that you could have as a synonym against the revelation of the living God. I just posted a story on my website that a Muslim female teacher gets up in class and denies the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and the Christian kid, God bless him, whoever he is, stands up and he gets expelled. Hello, what's wrong with that? I think it was in Florida. The point being is this, is God's people are going to know the truth. What they do with the truth then becomes their responsibility. So we are excited, and listen, True Legends, the unfolding of the ancient mysteries. I want to say this again. You can call it bragging, you can call it boasting. I'm declaring it as word. It will rewrite history. And I'll also make you another statement. Watch and see. You watch after we release this video what happens in the world of archaeology, of ancient astronomy, of global, if you will, global planetary physics, the whole situation of the world, everything that's been denied. Let's take Mars, for instance. Everything that's been denied over Mars, yet Tim is in Tiwanaku, and he's in Peru and Bolivia, and we see the very language that the late David Flynn described. It was David Flynn that first figured out, God bless him, and I wish he were here still. I wish he were here. I can't, bring him back, but God chose to take him at the time. But the language of the Tiwanaku and matching Mars, and somebody said, well, how can that be? How can you make that statement? Simple, and we're going to prove it, and you're going to know it.